Welcome back, dear friends, to part 3 of part 15, covering paragraphs 53 through 58 of the Advent of Divine Justice. And without any further ado, dear friends, we'll have our opening prayer. O thou Lord of wondrous grace, bestow upon us new blessings. Give to us the freshness of the spring. We are saplings which have been planted by the fingers of thy bounty and have been formed out of the water and clay of thy tender affection. We thirst for the living waters of thy favors and are dependent upon the outpourings of the clouds of thy generosity. Abandon not to itself this grove wherein our hopes aspire, nor withhold therefrom the showers of thy loving kindness. Grant that from the clouds of thy mercy may fall copious rain, so that the trees of our lives may bring forth fruit, and we may attain the most cherished desire of our hearts. Abdul Baha. A beautiful prayer. Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody, to another session of Advent of Divine Justice. You truly are practicing the virtue of perseverance at this stage so far, right? I bet you've never been in a course this long in your lives, going through this many sessions. But truly, it's going to get ever more exciting, ever more wonderful as we go through it. So, dear friends, we're going to go into our slides. Let me first make sure it's on the correct slide before I start. Okay, and our first reader. There we go, perfect. And share my screen. And expansion. There we go. Very good. So, can you see my mouse? Just give a thumbs up if you can see my mouse moving. Excellent. Okay, so my first reader, if you could read up to right here, okay? Go ahead, please. Thank you so much.
Am I the first reader?
You're the second reader, Miss Donna. The first reader, I believe, was Miss Lu Ann, I believe. If I believe I asked Miss Lu Ann. Yes. Miss Lu Ann, could you please start the reading? Thank you. Okay. Okay, Miss Darla, could you be my first reader? All the way up to slow healing wounds would be appreciative. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Advent of Divine Justice, paragraph 58. Let the white make a supreme effort in their resolve to contribute their share to the solution of this problem, to abandon once and for all their usually inherent and at times subconscious sense of superiority, to correct their tendency towards revealing a patronizing attitude towards the members of the other race, to persuade them through their intimate, spontaneous, and informal association with them of the genuineness of their friendship and the sincerity of their intentions, and to master their impatience of any lack of responsiveness on the part of the people who have received for so long a period such grievous and slow healing wounds.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, Miss Donna, could you pick it up from here?
Let the Negroes, through a corresponding effort on their part, show by every means in their power the warmth of their response, their readiness to forget the past, and their ability to wipe out every trace of suspicion that may still linger in their hearts and minds. Let neither think that the solution of so vast a problem is a matter that can exclusively concern the other. Let neither think that such a problem can either easily or immediately be resolved.
Beautifully read. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. And Miss Donna, if you could carry on. You'd read so well, please.
Let neither think that they can wait confidently for the solution of this problem until the initiative has been taken and the favorable circumstances created by agencies that stand outside the orbit of their faith. Let neither think that anything short of genuine love, extreme patience, true humility, consummate tact, sound initiative, mature wisdom, and deliberate, persistent, and prayerful effort can succeed in blotting out the stain which this patent evil has left on the fair name of their common country. Let them rather believe and be firmly convinced that on their mutual understanding, their amity, and their sustained cooperation must depend, more than on any other force or organization operating outside the circle of their faith, the deflection of that dangerous course so greatly feared by Abdu'l-Baha, and the materialization of the hopes he cherished for their joint contribution to the fulfillment of that country's glorious destiny.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So this is a good recap, rereading it, remembering what these words are. So I want to share an insight as we have been going through these paragraphs and as we're reading this second part of paragraph 58, you see all of these great qualities and attributes that the beloved guardian is saying that we should have to take on this challenge, to take on and become part of the solution. And he's saying, let neither think that anything short of what? Genuine love, extreme patience, true humility, consummate tact, sound initiative, mature wisdom, deliberate, persistent, and prayerful effort can succeed. And, so these are just some of the qualities. Now, where did we read other qualities and attributes? It was in paragraph 52. So if anyone has their book handy, which I happen to do, so in paragraph 52, this is the paragraph which Abdul is describing the qualities of Abdu'l-Baha. If you recall, this is where the beloved guardian is saying you should have these qualities of Abdu'l-Baha in, handling racial justice. And in paragraph 52, it says, let them, I read this again. He says, let them call to mind fearlessly and determinedly the example and conduct of who? Abdu'l-Baha. Paragraph 52. So these are the qualities again. So the beloved guardian is reiterating the qualities of Abdu'l-Baha right here in paragraph 58, the second half. So the qualities in paragraph 52 is his example and conduct, his courage, his genuine love. Where do we see genuine love in this paragraph? Yes, of course. It says nothing, my chubby finger, is nothing short of genuine love. See, right? Nothing short of genuine love. So that's exact copy of paragraph 52. It's right there in paragraph 52. His informal and indiscriminating fellowship, his contempt for and impatience of criticism, tempered by what? Tact and wisdom. See, we see that again. Consummate tact and wisdom is here too. So exact replica of paragraph 52. Paragraph 52 is tying it directly to Abdu'l-Baha, and this is now outlining all the qualities. Isn't that cool? You see how the mind of the guardian is, he takes you first, in paragraph 51, taking you through the entire state of what is racism. Then he takes it, he's showing now, contrasting that to the example of the beloved master and saying, this is the example of the master, Abdu'l-Baha. Then later, as now he's showing the Baha'i viewpoint on racism, He's saying these are the qualities and attributes that you should have. And all of them, every one of them, he already outlined in saying these are the examples that Abdu'l-Baha had in paragraph 52. So that was just, as they say, a side note segue. Wanted you to see how if all these qualities, and one of them just truly stands out to me personally, and this is consummate tact. And tact is wisdom in speech. It's something so fundamentally important that it's wisdom in speech so that you don't hurt the other person. That's what tact means. So imagine that, dear friends, that we think before we speak so that we don't hurt anyone. Consummate tact. That is something so fundamentally important to solving these ills. So, dear friends, let us get back into our session. We're going, I believe we're slide 58 now. Here we go. According to paragraph 58, the beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi states, let neither race think that the solution to the problem exclusively concerns the other. That such a problem can either be easily or immediately resolved. How nice would that be, right? Immediately or resolved. No, it won't be. That they can wait confidently for the solution until the initiative is taken. That would be really nice too. We just sit and wait and then the solution happens. But no, that's not going to happen either. But what does it say? That anything short of genuine love, extreme patience, true humility, consummate tact, sound initiative, mature wisdom, and deliberate, persistent, and prayerful effort can succeed in blotting out the stain which this patent evil has left on the fair name of their common country. So again, this word comes up. I think this is the third or fourth time in these paragraphs is this word. And you're saying, Ehsan, what is this word? And the word is effort. So this is all about effort. If you recall, make a supreme effort, a tremendous effort. Now is the beloved guardian is saying nothing short of having this effort. This right? He's saying you have to have a persistent and prayerful effort. So already I can think of 3 times in these short paragraphs is the word effort. So you see how important the beloved guardian is referencing that we got to do something. You got to get up and do it. Effort is required. And this is a quote from the great Henry Ford, who made the Ford car, Model T Ford. And he said, coming together is a beginning. Staying together is progress. But working together is success. And that is the real challenge, to work together. So let us move on. This is the quotes, these qualities and attributes that are outlined by the beloved guardian. And let love be genuine. This is from Romans. This is in the Bible, Romans 12:9. And actually, all of these qualities that are outlined are actually also in the Bible. I actually looked them all up. They're right there, and they're all in different quotes in the Bible. So it's the beloved guardian was a scholar of the Bible and Christianity and Islam and everything. So he literally looked at all the different qualities and attributes, and he chose these ones. It's very interesting. So this says, racism runs deep. It infects the hearts of both Black and white and Black Americans. No one can remain unaffected by its corrosive influence. And something that in a session we had on Sunday, I also participated in a North Virginia study, and one of the friends said a very interesting thing, and I'd thought of it in a different light. I thought of it as if the air we breathe is, contaminated, and if the air we breathe is contaminated, we immediately are just taking it in, right? And if the air is, wherever we are, if we live in this great United States of America and there's racism in the media and our society, we are just taking it in, right? This becomes subconscious. This becomes inherent, right? So one of the friends used a different analogy, which was very nice. And they said, we are like the fish of the sea, but the waters are polluted. And this is no matter where we swim or how we swim, or even if we're literally fighting the current and trying to battle against the waters itself, we are still taking in the pollution. And we have to battle against that within. You follow? So there was another type of analogy, but it was that we constantly have to work on cleansing our own self. So these are the 10 qualities that the beloved guardian outlines in this paragraph 58. And I made, as they say, an acronym, just because I was sitting here and I was thinking about it. And it's GET, SOMAC, ET. That's my acronym. ET is extraterrestrial, not a very good acronym, but SOMAC is in Somak. Persians always eat that with their kebab, but this is GET, SOMAC, ET. So GET is G for genuine love, E for extreme patience, T for true humility. And you're like, Ehsan, why are you not putting P and H? Because the words extreme, genuine, if you just have love, but it's not genuine, you notice it, right? Genuine is a very important word. That's why the beloved guardian uses it. Genuine love, extreme patience, true humility. That's why I put GET here. Sound initiative, mutual understanding, mature wisdom, amity, cooperation. And this is a beautiful, deliberate, persistent, and prayerful effort. This is the kind of effort that we should have. And consummate tact. Okay. Excellent. Let me just check something, 2 seconds. I apologize. Any thoughts so far?
The whole virtues are here.
Right? Excellent, dear Tesfaye. Yeah, these are the qualities and attributes that we have to internalize to take on racism within ourselves, within our communities, and then eventually in the greater society. So genuine love, extreme patience, true humility. And obviously, dear friends, all the qualities and attributes as far as rectitude of conduct, as far as where we're talking about, dear friends, a chaste and holy life, all of them. How can we create a sustainable society if we do not have equity, right? We talked about equity. We talked about justice. We talked about, all truthfulness, right? When we talked about these qualities and attributes as far as rectitude of conduct. Those are the building blocks of a sustainable society. So these are what internally we have to build within ourselves to be able to, per se, take on racism. We have to have true and genuine love. We have to have patience and humility. So this is the qualities the beloved guardian outlines. And
Ehsan,
please, dear Tesfaye, you had something. Please go ahead.
Ehsan, I think the Baha'is, we need to exercise these virtues by having one friend, at least either they become to the faith or not, it doesn't matter, just to make friend and to exercise ourselves, to make sure that we try to come up with these virtues to get rid of this racism.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to be active, consciously active. Make friends with African Americans. Really. We have to be proactive. We have to make genuine, and this is not just I have an African American friend, and so I'm not racist. How are your conversations? Is it a conversation of love? And how are you increasing your circle of friends? And what are you doing to promote racial justice in yourself, in your community, in your institutions? And remember, when we read in, I believe it was paragraph 32 or 32 or 38, off the top of my head, but it was where every single space at the institutional level, in all of our spheres, it should be our watchword, right? That's the word the beloved guardian says. It should be our watchword. Oh, and we're going to my dear friend, Miss Karen, please.
Now I'm unmuted.
There you go.
And as you were talking, the first word that came to my mind was genuine. Disingenuousness can be detected by a country mile, so to speak. So genuine friendship is needed. I say that because our neighbors are African American, and we've known them for about 30 years and had a relationship with them for about 30 years, but it's gotten deeper in the last year during this pandemic as we held devotionals. And the devotionals were because they're a family of teachers, and the need was so great to have a spiritually based relationship with them that address the needs of our teachers and our students at this time. And so we put it together and told them that this is the reason why we put it together, was for them. And it's just become a more genuine relationship over the last year as a result of the devotional. So that was what first came to mind, was genuine, pure love, which we can bring to it.
I love it, dear Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful share. Another term that goes along with genuine love is the terminology that the Supreme Body, Universal House of Justice, has been saying in its plans. Veritable friendships, right? Veritable means true, comes from means to mean true. So veritable friendships, that's what we should be having, means true friendships. Are you being not only true to that person, true to yourself, and not trying to, per se, I hope in 10 more sessions this person becomes a Bahá'í or whatever, or are you truly trying to connect heart to heart and demonstrate love, undying love, burning love to that person? And that's really what it is. Genuine love, as dear Karen says, people can read you a mile away, countries away, and see, are you being true or are you not being true? That's really all I can say on that. But these qualities, if we meditate upon them every day, how can I be more, demonstrating love in my actions, working towards these, and then thinking of practical things in your life. How can I work to bring racial justice in my own personal life? Because this is what it's about, right, dear friends? It's about being a change. Okay. Now, I don't know how many of you seen this cool video by my dear friend Robin Chandler. So I'm going to share this with you.
Abdu'l-Bahá's life becomes a model for how we are to behave. I mean, we know this and we hear this, the perfect exemplar. Then, of course, this leads into just a few decades later to Shoghi Effendi, who writes what I consider the Bible of the American Baha'i community, which is the Advent of Divine Justice. You must memorize this book, friends, from this cover to that cover, and then read it again. Read it to your children, have them read it to you, have the Baha'i youth share it with their friends. And the focus, of course, is on our mission, Our mission is to teach the African American and the Native American communities. When I first became a Baha'i, one of the things I did was when I got back to campus after I was at the Baha'i for a month, I had read Baha'i books, but I hadn't really studied them. And so I ordered 4 Baha'i books, and I just sort of buried myself in them for about 2 months. And one of them was The Advent of Divine Justice. The other one was The World Order of Baha'u'llah. And I was completely blown away. I had never read anything about this. And you see these ideas of the Guardian. The Guardian writes as if he's a social scientist. He writes as if he's a social observer, because he's getting all this data from different parts of the world. And then, you know, in retrospect, of course, the Guardian had unpacked implicit bias 70 years before Harvard ever came up with this initiative, this implicit bias test. 70 years. If that's the kind of vision that the Guardian had in that book, it's another reason to go back and read it, because there are all these precious gems in it that that are shared with us from a spiritual point of view. But the next important part, after the responsibilities to pass the message of Baha'u'llah on to Native Americans, African Americans, beyond mass declaration that went on in the 60s and 70s, is what I call the 7-point behavioral model that is contained in that book, that explicitly and basically and clearly explains what Negroes are to do and what whites are to do. We can translate those into the parlance of today: white folks, black folks, white folks, people of color. Those 7 behaviors, with greater clarity than I've ever read anywhere in any kind of writing, tells me exactly what I have to do. Usually inherent feelings of superiority, sometimes subconscious. He didn't choose words like opened up the dictionary and said, oh, gee, I like this word. He chose the words very specifically because he understood what was going on in America. I've used them as a coach and a trainer for years. I use them all the time in training sessions. They're infallible. They're absolutely infallible because they get to the very core of how and where we hide. They get to the very core of the games we play. They get to the very core of the ways that we try to avoid dealing with the most challenging issue. He called it that for a reason.
All right. So how did you like that video, dear friends? That was excellent. Really wonderful. So, dear friends, any thoughts on what Robin shared with us? Or did it strike you in any way, your thoughts as you're also reading and studying the Advent of Divine Justice with us?
The only thing is try to apply it. That's it. Which is the direction.
That's right, dear Tesfaye. Dennis, you unmuted yourself, please.
Also, early in this section, the call of mind, also courage was a primary driver element of this too, because dealing with this audacity, you look at the letters from National and House of Justice, and courage is a big part of this process.
Absolutely,
well.
Absolutely. Good of you to point that out. Excellent, dear Dennis. Because when only 1 or 2 people are going this way and the entire herd is going this way, you kind of stand out. And that is, and when you kind of feel uncomfortable and awkward, and you're like, why should I be doing this? And so, but if you, as we have been reading the Advent of Divine Justice, and where the beloved Guardian is stressing what this role is, as this is the role of a Baha'i. And if this is the role of a Baha'i, he is constantly said, the role of a Baha'i is diametrically opposed to the degeneracy of society. So we have to be going the other way, as they say, right? So if the crowd and the herd is not active or supporting or is apathetic to this aspect of racial justice, you better be going the other way and be a stalwart supporter, active promoter of the oneness of humanity. See, you could pretty much look at any one of the aspects of society and see, oh, okay, that's the degeneracy of society. I should be different, going the other way. Really, that's, I mentioned this in our first session with you many, many months ago. And when I sent this whole presentation of 24 parts to the Secretariat of the Supreme Body for review, they only added one word, and that not that they added it, they highlighted it, bolded it. And you know what that one word was? That one word that they highlighted and stressed that it should be presented in part one in bold and put in red was that it is diametrically opposed. This is the standard of the faith. It is completely opposite to the degeneracy of society. This is something that we need to know, really understand, and not look to the broken standards of society, the broken traditions of society, and as the standard. Dear Riaz-Jan, you have a hand, please.
Along this idea of diametrically opposed, in the July 22nd message, July 22nd, 2020 message from the Universal House of Justice, they say in very clear language, it is not possible to achieve the changes envisioned by Baha'u'llah by following the processes, the methods, the posture, even the language that is commonly used in popular culture, addressing the American. The letter is addressed to the American Baha'i community. Mm-hmm. A very strong statement that it is not possible to follow the popular methodology and habits and customs prevalent in America.
Excellent, dear Riaz-Jan. How does that, any thoughts on that? It was a great insight, great connection. Any thoughts on that, Riaz-Jan?
Well, my thoughts is that we, as Americans, we have the habit of following what is popular. We immediately join the popular trends, and we feel that we should align ourselves as Baha'is, align ourselves to the movements, to the very well-intentioned movements in the United States. This is very common. But the Universal House of Justice say it is not possible to achieve the changes that we envision by simply following the various prevalent processes, methodologies, and even language used in our society.
That's right. Excellent, Riaz-Jan. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. This is a message, as Riaz-Jan mentioned, July 22nd, 2020, that every single one of us should study individually and collectively, and also in the institutions, as spiritual assemblies, to meditate and take collective action on, because this is something to really, it's one of those, also the forging a path to racial justice message that the National Spiritual Assemblies sent out. That's another message that needs to be studied too. So these are messages that needs to be carefully reviewed. So fix your gaze upon unity. This is where we should be keeping our focus on unity, of collection, of action, unity. If we drift our gaze away, just like we're in the old days when we're having a horse and cart, you know, and having an oxen behind us and, you know, plowing a field. If just for a moment we shift our heads, what happens? It goes off course, right? And then our field is not plowed properly. And this is the reality. Often we constantly are shifting, as humanity I'm talking about, shifting our gaze away from unity. Even within our assemblies and our committees, we sometimes lose focus in the sense of having unified collective vision. And we may start delving into our own selves and not in the sense of unity of the collective. And this is something that takes practice of working to quell the self, you know? And this is something that to be able to focus on unity is where, as Baha'is, we need to keep our focus. So let us now get back into it. At the end of paragraph 56, His Holiness Abdul Baha warns, "For if it is not realized, ere long great difficulties will arise and harmful results will follow." This warning is then reiterated. If this matter remaineth without change, enmity will be increased day by day, and the final result will be hardship and may end in bloodshed. Yeah, it's hard to read this knowing what is transpiring in our days. This is the reality, and Abdul Baha spoke of this in 12 in promulgation of universal peace. So this is the reality. This is what that we as Baha'is have to work on this every day, and concerted action individually, collectively, to work on it as a community, so that then it will transpire to the greater society. And in part 16, which is an incredible part when we're going to be hearing on this part. And this is now, we've talked about racial justice, right? Now the next part will be talking about the Double Crusade. So now we've talked about how it affects the Baha'i community. The next part will be talking about, okay, if the Baha'is really work on it internally as their own community, now they got to take it to the greater community. So Double Crusade, right? So this will be in our next part. So we haven't even worked on the first part, right? So let alone the second part of the crusade. So this is the challenge, that we have to work on it as our own community. And now if you think about this, does anyone remember when this letter was written?
In 1938.
Very good, Tesfaye. Ding, ding, ding. I love it. Good on you. December 25th, 1938. Christmas Day, 1938. Now, think about that, dear friends. If the Baha'i community as a whole, the entire American Baha'i community, embraced this and supported it, championed it, what a difference. What a difference. Now, think about how when civil rights, that the Baha'i community were, championing, this. And then coming up to the 70s, coming up to the 80s, 90s, thinking about this, that the whole Baha'i community, this was the true watchword of the American Baha'i community, having that levels of consummate tact, genuine love, true friendship, all of these things, and truly embracing and everyone. What a difference. Truly, the entire African American community would have seen this as the beacon of light. You see this? This is how Abdul Baha set it up in 1938, because God knows that he saw that these things were going to be coming in America, and it's going to get, as we see, it's getting worse. Truly, we think, oh, it's much better than it was, but not much has changed. In fact, it's still extremely terrible. As we see, bloodshed is still happening in the streets of America. At the end of paragraph 58, the beloved guardian asks both races to believe and be firmly convinced that on their mutual understanding, their amity, sustained cooperation must depend more than on any force or organization operating outside the circle of their faith, the deflection of that dangerous course so greatly feared by Abdu'l-Baha, and the materialization of the hopes he cherished for their joint contribution to the fulfillment of that country's glorious destiny. Mutual understanding, their amity, sustained cooperation. These are the qualities that, are apart from those other 7 qualities that are outlined. Mutual understanding, amity, sustained cooperation. This is what must depend the force to bring the hearts together. And this is an amazing artwork. I don't know if you, I will share with the artist that did this, but this is a really cool artwork. It says, racism is like goutweed. I don't know if you know what goutweed is. It is a very short little weed, but it has the most extensive root network of any weed. So no matter if you pull it out or pluck it, the root network is just so extensive. And so that's why the roots are hard to eliminate. And you can see all the different things from the ghetto, unfair, poor schools, gangs, white privilege, superiority, hate, ignorance, welfare, racial bias, discrimination, inferiority. And you can see how they're trying to pluck it out from social justice and anti-racism. This is a cool artwork just to give you the mindset of that it is a huge, astronomically gargantuan problem is racism. But the word that the beloved guardian kept using is effort. You got to do it. You got to work on it. You cannot just say, oh, it's really big, can't do anything about it. So, but you got to start yourself and as a community. So this is
beautiful.
Thank you, dear Desfaya. So this,
well done.
So this is a reminder, because I always like jumping back because you guys are in my class. So this is from one of my top favorite quotes in the whole Advent of Divine Justice. It says, to weed out by every means in their power those faults, habits, and tendencies, right? You remember this? Paragraph 34. Weed out by every means in their power those faults, habits, and tendencies which they have inherited from their own nation. And racism is like a gout weed, right? As it showed, it is a weed. It grows and it sits there and its roots take control and it just festers. And this is a people immersed in a sea of materialism, a prey to one of the most virulent and long-standing forms of racial prejudice and notorious for its political corruption, lawlessness, and laxity in moral standards. And that was paragraph 32. So these are the qualities that the beloved guardian was saying are the major problems that we're facing America. If you recall these, I brought this back to you. So that's why I said, reminder. So this is a quote, one of the most beautiful quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. So as you see, I jump, I want to share these, with you. So I'm going to have our next reader. It's going to be my dear friend, Miss Claudia. Miss Claudia, can you read this one for us? Don't forget to unmute yourself, Miss Claudia. Oh, there you go.
Okay. When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize that the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.
Excellently read, Miss Claudia. Thank you so much. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And this is the quote that is so amazing, is this arc of the moral universe is long. And we hear this this idea that Martin Luther King Jr. is talking about, where the beloved guardian mentions it's a long and thorny road, right? But it is bending towards justice. And this is something that we have to keep our eyes on, keep our mouths at the watchword of racial justice, keep our hearts and our communities focused on it, so that eventually that transformation will happen within us and within our communities. So this is where we should be going. And this is from the beloved guardian, casting away once and for all the fallacious doctrine of racial superiority. It seems like it's almost a garment over us, right? To cast away once and for all. It's a garment over our eyes, over our minds, over our hearts, is racial superiority. And it says this inherent, sometimes inherent. So we have to cast away once and for all and have, as dear Karen said, genuine love, right? She immediately picked that up. Genuine love. Riaz John, please, you have a hand. Go for it.
Okay. In relation to Dr. Martin Luther King, we should remember that the basis of his thought and his intention and his work, the basis is a spiritual basis, because he was a spiritual person. He had a spiritual education. He was aware of the spiritual principles, and he was in tune with the divine message, meaning the divine fragrances. When Abdul Baha says, spread the divine fragrances, Martin Luther King was aware of those fragrances. He was a spiritually educated person. That is why his influence is so great, and he stands on a firm basis of spiritual education.
Thank you very much, Riaz John. Thank you. Thank you. There are many individuals that are so-called clergy, and these individuals may be trained in clergy aspects, but they may not be spiritual. There's different and in tune with the word itself and connected. And then there's a difference of also taking action. You know, this is the difference. There's where it says, let deeds, not words, be your adorning. This is from Baha'u'llah. There was many preachers or Christians or many people that, you know, would espouse the words of Christ and saying, love thy neighbor. But how many actually arose like Martin Luther King as a Baptist minister? How many actually did that? So you're absolutely right. You know, where Martin Luther King Jr., you know, he was a Baptist minister, but he saw the words of Christ and said, love thy neighbor. And he also said, I have a dream that my brothers, my sisters, my children will eventually walk in the pastures together with white and black together, right? So he had that vision, he was sharing his vision, and he was walking the talk. He was not just, you know, saying it from one pulpit. He went and he walked. He was in prison so many times. He was shot. And even when he was in the hospital, he gave a speech, and it was and saying, "I forgive the person who shot me," and it was incredible. I mean, truly, amazing individual is Martin Luther King Jr. And I urge you also to study these lives, because these are incredible examples of living that we have, of how they are courageous, as dear Dennis, highlighted, to have courage. And what a time he was living. But we do not have all those obstacles in our life. Well, we also should have courage in our lives. No man should follow blindly his ancestors and forefathers. Nay, each must see with his own eyes, hear with his own ears, and investigate independently in order that he may find the truth. So this is a fundamental principle of the Baha'i faith, independent investigation of the truth. Fundamental principle of the Baha'i faith, that you cannot follow blindly the ancestors, forefathers, the clergy, anyone that is gone before you. You need to investigate for your own self. This is principle of the faith. And this all correlates with that one quality that we talked about in rectitude of conduct, which is the last word here is truth. Because this is so supremely important, is we should be a follower of the truth. Now, let us go into more details. This is in a letter written on behalf of the beloved guardian to an individual believer dated 30th January 1941. So this is a few years after Advent of Divine Justice. It is mentioned, it states, in America, where racial prejudice is still so widely prevalent, it is the responsibility of the believers to combat and uproot it with all their force. And then he gives the two methods. This is what he says. First, by endeavoring to introduce into the cause as many racial and minority groups as they can approach and teach. This is the first method. Second, by stimulating close fellowship and intercourse between them and the rest of the community. At a time when the whole world is steeped in prejudices of race, class, and nation, the Baha'is, by upholding firmly and loyally this cardinal principle of their faith, can best hope to vindicate its truth and establish its right to bring order and peace out of the chaos and strife of this war-torn world. Any thoughts, dear friends? So these are the two, as they say, he outlays this strategy. He's laying out a strategy. This is how to do it. If it was a chess game, he's saying, move one and move two. You got to do this. First strategy is first by endeavoring to introduce into the cause as many racial and minority groups as they can approach and teach. So we got to focus on that. Are we focusing on African Americans and Native Americans? And it says all minority groups. This is something that as a Baha'i community, this should be our strategy. And second, by stimulating close fellowship and intercourse between them and the rest of the community. Are we having close fellowship? And it should be genuine, right? That was the key word. Genuine love.
Son Abdul Baha saying, is that okay?
Please testify. Go ahead.
Yeah, Abdul Baha saying that in his thought, one of the true Baha'i qualities are to be, you have to feel it in the heart, say it in the tongue, and show it in the action. Three kind of things you have to do. It's not
about... Say it one more time so everyone can hear it. One more time. It was beautiful.
Yeah, so what we are going to do is, as an instruction for the Baha'is, is to be, you have to feel it in your heart, say it in a tongue, and show it in the action.
Mm.
Three of them you have to combine together and show it in action. So unless and otherwise these three action is not come together, we are not Baha'i. So we need to follow all these directions.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, dear Tesfai. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That is always, in my mind. So I have always encouraging me to do all these things all the time. So I'm just sharing you.
Yeah, good thoughts, because it all ties together. You see how rectitude of conduct ties to chaste and holy life, ties to racial. It's such an incredible tapestry that the beloved guardian has been outlaying, because you were like, how is rectitude of conduct tied to chaste and holy life, tied to freedom from racial prejudices? But you can see that the actions, that if we cleanse our actions, then we can truly say, yes, I have truthfulness, I have justice, and so we can then work on justice in a society. We can have equity in a society. And when we want to be a proponent of racial justice, justice is right there as one of the qualities of rectitude of conduct. So then we're talking about all the qualities of freedom from prejudices, that we have to have consummate tact, all these aspects of speech. These are all so tied and linked together. And as dear Tesfai says, all of these is in aspect of the heart, our speech. And remember, one of the seven was clean-mindedness. So these are qualities that we should all have. Our minds should also be correct. So now these are a few more slides. It says, until love takes possession of our hearts. Love, possession of our hearts. No other divine bounty can be revealed in it. So love has to enter within our hearts, and that divine love should permeate to every single living person on this planet. Okay, and now let us look at this awesome extract. This is from the Supreme Body, the Universal House of Justice. This is in a letter to the world's religious leaders, dated April 2002. And this is another one of those awesome letters that we should always revisit, because the language is just so awesome. The House of Justice states, racial and ethnic prejudices have been subjected to equally summary treatment by historical processes that have little patience left for such pretensions. Here, rejection of the past has been especially decisive. Racism is now tainted by its association with the horrors of the 20th century, to the degree that it has taken on something of the character of a spiritual disease. While surviving as a social attitude in many parts of the world, and as a blight on the lives of a significant segment of humankind, racial prejudice has become so universally condemned in principle that no body of people can any longer safely allow themselves to be identified with it. So this is the maturation of society. That's the awareness of humanity has now deemed it no longer safely allow themselves to be identified with it. You don't say, yeah, I agree with the racist ideas and everything openly and outwards, because racist ideas is not okay in general society. You understand? So this is where at the end it says it has become universally condemned. This is where the social consciousness of society has reached. And again, the Universal House of Justice continues. This is very amazing. It says, it is not that a dark past has been erased and a new world of light has suddenly been born. Vast numbers of people continue to endure the effects of ingrained prejudices of ethnicity, gender, nation, caste, and class. All the evidence indicates that such injustices will long persist as the institutions and standards that humanity is devising only slowly become empowered to construct a new order of relationships and to bring relief to the oppressed. The point rather is that a threshold has been crossed from which there is no credible possibility of return. Fundamental principles have been identified, articulated, accorded broad publicity, and are becoming progressively incarnated in institutions capable of imposing them on public behavior. There is no doubt that, however protracted and painful the struggle, the outcome will be to revolutionize relationships among all peoples at the grassroots level. And this is the Supreme Body saying that these type of fundamental principles are now taking hold on at the grassroots levels. And I don't know if you see it in work businesses. You see how, there's even things such as a diversity officer, in major corporations. This was, and never before you've heard of a, chief diversity officer or working in your company's program of standards, that there has to be that element to ensure that there's not only diversity, but there's also elements of racial equity within workplaces. So this is not only being enforced from the federal level, but companies are now actively working to ensure that is the practice. So this is, you can see, this is happening in institutions and also at the grassroots level. This is just the beginning. It's a long road that as society we have to work on. Any thoughts here? I'll let anyone share any thoughts.
Most of the time that we need to, the Baha'i, that we are always praying, ask the Lord to give us something or for our problem only. But when you go to the writing, and then now when you come to this, we have a task to do.
Yeah.
So not all the time to be, praying and asking and for our benefits only, but now we need to work His will.
That's right, dear Tesfa.
So that's our chance to send, and that we have to do this, because not only always praying to Him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we say we're a Baha'i, we're putting on that badge and saying, yes, I'm going to pick up the call and I'm going to arise to what it means to be a Baha'i. And often we think that little card that says, I believe in Baha'u'llah, I believe in the Bab, I believe in Abdul Baha, I believe in the Universal House of Justice, means and says that is the definition of what it means to be a Baha'i. That's true. If you believe in Baha'u'llah, you also accept what Baha'u'llah, Abdul Baha, the Beloved Guardian, Universal House of Justice are stating. And if they are stating the definition of what it means to be a Baha'i is to work towards rectitude of conduct, to work towards chaste and holy life, to work towards freedom of racial prejudices internally and at the societal level for the purpose of working towards the aspect of having success in all teaching matters, right? We read that earlier, that the purpose of these three weapons is to have success in teaching. If that's what it means to be a Baha'i, then we got to do it. So Riaz John, you have a hand, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Let me try. let me try this among the friends who are present. I mean, as Baha'is, we are constantly speaking of the spiritual message, of the spiritual Baha'i message, the spiritual virtues and the Baha'i message and the Baha'i revelation. And we sometimes wonder what is this new revelation? What is it? How can we, where is it so we can look at it? and understand it. And this is the revelation given to us by the manifestation of God. This is what the Bab and Baha'u'llah has given us. But we wonder, what is this revelation? What is it? This spiritual message, what is it? So let me try this, that it's not an abstract fantasy. It's solid because it has been manifested to us in the language that we understand. And the language has been given to us explicitly. It has put us in our hands. For example, what is this spiritual manifestation? So I would think if we look, let's say, if we open the book Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, if we open it and look inside, that is the language given to us in our own language that we can understand. That is the spiritual content of this revelation. Right. These messages from the Universal, from the Shoghi Effendi or Universal House of Justice, this right here is in our language, where we can look and understand. This is the spiritual content. This is the spiritual world that has been manifested to us. All we have to do is look at it. It's in our language. We can look at it and read it, and it's accessible to us.
Excellent, dear Riaz John. You're absolutely right. This is the language, as dear Riaz John said, it's spiritual. This is the language, but we have to live it, do it, practice it, So the language becomes creative, as they say, So we don't it's not just for reading and meditating every morning and eve. We got to get up and do it and see how we can actually make the words come to life and think about our own personal life. How can I do it? And this is something internally, me, myself, and I'm meditating on how I can do this in my own personal life with my own family. And so we have to think about how we can do these things. Prejudices of any kind are the destroyers of human happiness. Incredible quote. These are quotes that whenever you're sharing presentations, these are incredible quotes. Prejudices of any kind are the destroyers of human happiness. And again, this is from the beloved guardian, Shoghi Effendi. He says, the need is very great. The need is very great, dear friends, everywhere in the world, in and outside the faith, for a true spiritual awareness to pervade and motivate people's lives. No amount of administrative procedure or adherence to rules can take the place of this soul characteristic, this spirituality, which is the essence of man. You see, the need is very great, dear friends. And we should be the ones that are bringing this soul regenerating words. Because, as you saw, each one of these are prerequisites to the success of teaching. And we're going to start getting into teaching in forthcoming sessions. How important is that? But right now, we're just in one of the prerequisites still.
I love it. This one has a Shoghi Effendi signature right there.
Right? Isn't that cool?
It's beautiful. I really love it.
The condition of the world is such today that it is like a great negative undertow trying to pull down all but the strongest and most firmly rooted. The friends should realize this and draw closer together, closer to each other, knowing that they form one spiritual family, closer to each other in the sight of God than those united by ties of blood. Isn't that cool? We should draw closer together. There's an incredible quote from Abdul Baha, and it's quoted by the Universal House of Justice. And it talks about that we should be walking together in a serried lines, right? I'm sure you've heard this terminology before. Marching in serried lines. And there's, in that same quote, it talks about what a serried lines is. It means that they're pressed together so close. That's what serried means. Serried means that they're pressed together so close. And there was an instrument of war. And it's in the same quote in selections from the writings of Abdul Baha. In that same quote, and I think I actually have a slide coming up in a later presentation on it. But in that same quote, it talks about a phalanx. I don't know if you've heard of this term. It was PHALANX, phalanx. And it was an instrument of war. And it was one of the most advanced designs of war combat. And it's where they would have many pressed together with shields. Okay, there will be one person here, one person here, one person here, one person here, one person here. And they will all be pressed together with shields, really tight together. But then there will be shields on the top. So there was no way of getting at them. It's called a phalanx. But then they would have their lances and their spears jutting out in both directions, up and out. And they would advance in the sense of serried lines. So not only would they have perfect defense, they would have awesome offense. You see, this is in the sense of having, battle of a phalanx. The Romans mastered it, the Mesopotamians, the Greeks mastered this type of warfare. But the beloved Master Abdul Baha says that we as Baha'is should be pressed together like that, you see, in serried lines. And here the beloved guardian says, the condition of the world is such today that he's like a great negative undertow. It's just pulling us down, right? But we should this should draw us closer to each other. One spiritual family, closer together, even more than united by the ties of our blood. Then this is from the great poetess, Maya Angelou. What does she say? It is time for parents to teach the young people early on that in diversity, there is beauty and there is strength. So if all of you that have children, many of you have old children or they're gone, long gone, or whatever, left the home. But this is something that we should all keep in mind. Many of you might be grandparents. This is something that you could teach your grandchildren, that in diversity, there is what? Beauty, and there is strength. And this is also, Abdul Baha says this. He says, talking about the garden, how the garden is so beautiful. Again, another beautiful quote from Martin Luther King. And I will get my dear friend Dennis McGregor to read this one so I can rest my voice for a second. Go for it.
The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. But education which stops with efficiency may prove the greatest menace to society. The most dangerous criminal may be the man gifted with reason, but with no morals.
Excellent. So now we're seeing that education is one of the most important things to combat racial prejudices. So here we're seeing that having this level of education, but with morals, is so fundamental to combat racial prejudices. And again, education without morals is like a ship without a compass, merely wandering nowhere. So education needs to have morals. And again, you see how much I love Martin Luther King. This is just a small section of how many quotes I have from him. He says, we must remember that intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education.
I think Martin Luther King is going to our kingdom.
He's already there, dear. I love it, dear Tesfaye. Yes, he's already there. Thank you.
He's highly elevated man.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And that was my last slide for part 15, dear friends. So I don't know what my time is. I'll do a time check. We're at 8:17, so we're a few minutes early on tonight. So let's, any questions, any thoughts on part 15? Next week, we have our dear Roya John. If she wants to, is still up for it. She could be presenting our part 16. Are you still up for it? Give me a thumbs up. Are you still up for it?
Yes, of course. I've been preparing with your slides, and
I love it. I love it. So I added a few more slides, so that will not throw you off, but it's just a few more slides. And so it's part 16. I'll just give you a heads up. So I will obviously send the presentation that you just saw, part 15, to each one of you. And then I'll send you the homeworks and readings and everything for upcoming part 16. And in part 16, now the beloved guardian, he's already outlaid these 3 weapons, namely rectitude of conduct. He's outlaid chaste and holy life. And now he's outlaid freedom from prejudices, right? Then he takes it one step further. He says, if you have actually worked on your rectitude of conduct, if you have worked on your chaste and holy life, and if you have worked on freedom from racial prejudices, that's fantastic. Now, you have now worked on your own inner crusade. Now you got to take it to one step further. This is why it's called Double Crusade. He says you got to work as a transformation of society. You see? So that's why it's called Double Crusade. You want crusade first in the inner Baha'i community to transform it. And now he says, take it one step further. The Baha'i community should be the beacon of light to the whole world. So take it to, and then go and attack all the long-standing evils in society. So this will be now addressed in part 16. Then something not to be missed, as my dear friends, I say, every one of us has these things called tests, tribulations, sufferings, problems in our lives. And in part 16, we will really get down to that. What are tests? Why do we have them? What are these tribulations for? What is all this suffering for? And so we're going to really get down to what all of that is about. So that's going to be a really interesting exploration of tests, tribulations, sufferings that each one of us go through in life. So that's, as they say, teaser for next time. So I really look forward to it. And truly, thank you so much. What a exciting evening. Any questions? We're a few minutes early, and we can always end early, but any questions at this point?
I don't have any question, but I have a comment. I have a great feeling that as we are here in this earthly life, we'll be together in the next world if we close together. We need to be closer, more than this writing.
Thank you, dear Tesfaye. That's very beautiful thought. And I hope that, in the next worlds, all the worlds of God, that I'm close to each one of you, because, I that's my true hope, because I'm very fond of each one of you. You all are gems I'm so proud to be in virtual presence of each one of you, as they say.
Following tonight's presentation, will we have access to the slides?
Of course, dear Riaz John, I send it every time. So after every part, once we finish the full part, I send every one of you this full slides.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and I also send you the recording and also upcoming notes and everything that I compiled on this. So that is it. Yes, Dr. Bayat, please. Oh, and Dr. Bayat is sick. That is why his camera is off. So maybe we'll have a healing prayer for Dr. Bayat and my and all the friends that are sick tonight. Please, Dr. Wright, you have the floor.
Sorry to hear that, man. We'll keep in prayer.
Well, thank you. The words of Martin Luther King that intellect is not enough, intellect and character is needed. Just wanted to say a few words about what character is. There are various ways of defining it, but the simplest way to say character is what people do and behave when nobody else is watching.
That is absolutely true.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you very much.
You have a very deep voice now, Dr. Bayat. You know, it's even more intellectually sounding, you know, but you very wise words from you. What you do in your private, that is character. And so when no one is watching, and also what is up here, and no one can read your mind, and no one can see what is in here, your heart, that is character. And so this is, as Dr. Bayat said, when no one in your privacy, are you abiding by what you're supposed to be doing? You know, excellent thoughts.
If this writing is not changing us, then we are not going to change. We need to be remodeled on this, remolding ourselves every day.
That's true, dear Tesfa. Thank you. Thank you.
As far as YouTube is concerned, are these slides in general, are they available on YouTube?
The slides are not available on YouTube, but the recording is also all on YouTube. I've put every single session is on YouTube. I will send you the full link, dear Riaz John, so you can see the entire set. But as far as the slides, after every session, I email them to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
you. That's a wise way. Don't put it in YouTube.
No. I don't put the slides on YouTube, but the recording session is there.
Exactly.
All right.
That's good.
Excellent. Very good, my friends.
To get the slide.
So next time we start part 16. And just for your information, we're getting close to the end. We've already passed the halfway mark. So there's 24 parts. So now we're going to start part 16. So we're doing very well, and I'm very proud of your perseverance. And thank you so much for another wonderful session. And anyone can, if would like to share a closing prayer, maybe a healing prayer for the sick friends. Thank you, my dear Jenny. Thank you so much. Maybe healing prayer for all the friends that are sick. Thank you so much.
O God, my God, I beg of thee by the ocean of thy healing and by the splendors of the day star of thy grace, and by thy name through which thou didst subdue thy servants, and by the pervasive power of thy most exalted word, and the potency of thy most august pen, and by thy mercy that hath preceded the creation of all who are in heaven and on earth, to purge me with the waters of thy bounty from every affliction and disorder, and from all weakness and feebleness. Thou seest, O my Lord, thy suppliant waiting at the door of thy bounty, and him who hath set his hopes on thee, clinging to the cord of thy generosity. Deny him not, I beseech thee, the things he seeketh from the ocean of thy grace and the day star of thy loving kindness. Powerful art thou to do what pleaseth thee. There is none other God save thee, the ever forgiving, the most generous. Baha'u'llah.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you, every one of you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.